Hey everyone! Today I'm back with another practice tips video. I'm filming in this beautiful outdoor location today in Korea. So last time I asked you guys on Instagram what kind of practice tips you wanted to see next, and many of you had requested tips on playing in high positions, like how to maintain good sound, how to keep contact in the left hand, how to maintain good vibrato up there as well. So let's talk about that today. For tip number one, I would say first of all, don't freak out too much about playing in the high position. I think whenever we're worried about something that we're playing, we tend to tense up more, and the high position is the last place you want to be tense. So, for example, just give a random note. I think it's more important first that you find the quality of the tone and make sure there's still enough resonance up there before worrying too much about the details in the score, the dynamic, all of that. So first think about finding the right quality of tone. Make sure your right hand is free. Your chest is open as it would be in a lower, easier position, let's say. Also your left arm to be, flexible. Make sure you know the position of the elbow as well. I think sometimes when we're too concerned about maybe the position of the finger in the high position, we forget to think about where the elbow is. Tips for, left hand articulation and the contact. A lot of times we'll see some people playing on the high position without enough contact, and I think sometimes that has to do with the placement of everything else, not just the tip of the finger. So try to help as much as you can with the rest of your arm, your wrist, your hand shape, in order to enable your finger to have the most strength up there. So it's also, obviously this last knuckle is important in terms of like the force and the amount of pressure you can apply at the tip of every finger, but also there are things you can do to help with and support. And generally I find it helps also to come a little bit closer to the bridge to have a more focused tone without applying too much pressure. For example, something like the Lark Ascending, which is very appropriate for this setting today. When you're trying to vary the kind of sound, instead of thinking too much about varying the pressure, the amount of contact in the bow, think about changing the bow speeds. So you can use like slower bow speeds at times to have a more compact sound, and then use a faster bow speed when you want the sound to flow a little bit more. Also, I think higher positions like the line is very, very important. I mean, line is important everywhere in music, but especially in the high position, because often we're so concentrated on the technical aspects of producing the right kind of sound up there and making sure everything is like technically feeling good in our body, that we should pay attention also a little bit more to the linear aspect and the line and the musical flow. And a lot of these lyrical parts in high passages can be kind of like a floating feeling, like this part in the Lark Ascending. Obviously there are more majestic places like let's say something like the Tchaikovsky Concerto, first movement. Part requires a little bit more articulation. There's more notes, obviously. It's a stronger dynamic. So that's different in a sense, but also applies the same kind of cautionary tips, I guess, to think about the amount of pressure, different kinds of bow speeds rather than just using force, and also contact of left hand. Most important is the independence of left and right in the high positions, just because the feeling of the right hand should be kept light and flowing so that it doesn't like crash into the string up there, whereas the left hand needs to be like super in contact and have the right pressure and also the right amount of vibrato. I feel like huge vibrato in the high position often gets too large, too wobbly. Like you hear the vibrations more up there. So if you try to narrow it, there becomes a clearer and a more focused kind of sound. So obviously it depends on the place and what kind of effect you want to achieve. But as a rule of thumb, I try not to have my vibrato too large in the higher register. Okay guys, so that was it for today's tips about playing on the higher position. I focused today more on playing on the higher positions on the E string, but let me know if you want me to do a video about playing in high positions on the lower register, because that's a different kind of technique. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what tips you want to see next, and I will see you very soon. Bye!